So this week, working on a 2010 Nissan Xterra with a 4.0. It's been quite a learning curve. Doing a head gasket job. It's going to give a few tips and tricks that I've learned. So to remove the heads, you gotta take the exhaust manifolds off, obviously. But to remove the exhaust manifolds in any way, you gotta take the heat shroud off. Of course, the little 10 millimeter bolts break. That's a problem. You have to drill them out if they snap off inside. Even if you wanted to remove the head with the exhaust manifold on, you'd still have to take the shroud off because the bolts to the catalytic converter come up towards you instead of the other way around, where you can get to them from the bottom. It's been a total pain in the butt. Of course, you got your knock sensors, which I'm replacing because it's throwing codes for it. They're way down in the valley there. And the timing cover. The timing cover is an absolute pain. There's a primary and a secondary cover. This is I guess what you would call the primary. It goes right up against the cylinder heads. It's got tons of gasket surfaces. You got to put gasket maker on all these. There's O-rings that go up against these surfaces. Gasket maker that goes on there. The cylinder head has to be basically completely reassembled before you put the cover on, because these cam bearing caps on the front here, it holds the cams down, it holds the VVT solenoid on top, and it doesn't hold the chain tensioner for the chain that connects the two cams together, but the chain tensioner is underneath it. So your new chain tensioner has to get bolted down first, then the cap put on top of it. There's gasket maker on the sides, and then of course the cam's got to be oiled, and you got to keep those separated. And there's a major problem with gaskets in these, and it's a 2010, so it's not crazy old, and they've been producing this dual overhead cam 4.0 for a while. It's 2005 through 2015 or so. It's not like it's a rare engine, but I cannot find kits that have all the O-rings and gaskets. It's been a super struggle getting all that stuff straightened out. For instance, between the heads and the primary cover, there is 6 O-rings. Got one here, got one down there, and of course, same on the other side. And then there's an O-ring that goes here. It's high pressure oil, and an O-ring that goes down there also for high pressure oil. None of the gasket kits I've been able to find have those O-rings. I've got a few popular kits. Auto parts stores or Amazon. These are all O-rings and gaskets that are used on this engine, but none of them have that set of O-rings. This set right here, this gasket set right here, has the 2 big O-rings for the high pressure oil, but it doesn't have the smaller O-rings that transfers that high pressure oil to your VVT solenoids. So finally tracked it down. That kit, once again, it's got some, but it doesn't have all of them. This is the kit you need right here. It's got all the O-rings for that. It's not cheap either. I never thought I'd be paying $65 for 10 O-rings, but what are you going to do if these little O-rings up top blow out or start leaking? You would have no way of knowing where your oil pressure is going. They seal up against the back of the cover right here, and that oil could just cascade back into the crankcase, and you'd lose oil pressure and have no real clue why. You replace your oil pump and it wouldn't matter. You'd still be losing oil pressure. So yeah, it's been a bit of a learning curve. The gaskets are going to be an issue. Finding all the O-rings and gaskets you need. Once you get that cover back on, then you go to your secondary cover on the front here. That's got a whole other set of gaskets and O-rings and all that jazz. I think this time around I'm gonna leave these plates on. That high pressure oil goes through this hole out to the front and around and feeds the VVT solenoid through this port here, and there is a kind of like a snap ring seal. You see them; they're pretty popular in transmissions, but it's basically like a ring that snaps into there and seals that VVT solenoid, which rotates on this shaft. Once again, none of the kits come with those. That would probably be a dealer part if you did take that apart and wanted to redo it. And all of these are not O-ring slots. They are liquid, gasket maker. You just got to scrape all this stuff out. You got to clean all this stuff. These are primarily where bolts come through. And the bolts are a whole nother headache because there's probably 5 or 6 different lengths and styles of bolts that hold this cover on. So yeah, you get the picture. It's quite a nightmare. I wouldn't volunteer to do this for sure. Like the video if this was helpful, and leave a comment and tell me about your experience.